Have you ever wondered why some people seem to achieve everything they set their minds to, while others struggle endlessly with unfinished goals? What if, by simply changing one small habit and improving yourself by just 1% each day, you could turn your dreams into reality without needing extraordinary willpower? In the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, the author unveils the secrets behind tiny changes that lead to extraordinary results. This isn't about lofty theories or empty motivational talks. It's a practical system that makes good habits inevitable and eliminates bad ones entirely. Imagine if just a few small changes today could unlock the door to the best version of yourself. In this video, we'll explore how to build and sustain effective habits through real-life stories, creative strategies, and profound lessons. You'll not only understand why habits shape who we are, but also learn how to master them to transform your life. Don't miss out. Every minute of this video will bring you closer to the goals you've always dreamed of achieving. Chapter number 1. Introduction to habits and their power. Habits are an essential part of each person's life. Every morning you might begin your day with familiar routines, from drinking a glass of water, doing a few simple exercises, to choosing healthy foods. Or more simply, habits might include going to work on time, studying consistently, or planning your daily tasks carefully. These habits may not create dramatic changes right away, but if we maintain and develop them steadily, over time the impact they have can be immense. In his book Atomic Habits, James Clear explores deeply the mechanism of habit formation and the hidden power they hold. He asserts that instead of trying to change your entire life in one big leap, we should focus on making small, daily changes. These tiny changes, when practiced consistently, will accumulate over time and lead to extraordinary results that we may not have imagined possible. What are habits? At their core, habits are actions that we perform automatically, without needing to think too much about them. We don't need to make decisions or summon willpower every time we engage in these habits. A simple example is brushing our teeth each morning. We don't need to remind ourselves or struggle to motivate ourselves to do it. It's something we do without thinking. Habits form when we repeat an action consistently over a period of time, eventually making it a natural part of our daily lives. This is why habits can either be beneficial or detrimental, depending on what they are. Good habits, when built consciously, can improve our health, productivity, and overall quality of life. Bad habits, on the other hand, can hold us back and prevent us from reaching our full potential. How habits shape our lives. The power of habits lies not in one single action, but in the compounded effect of consistently repeated behavior. When we consistently engage in a particular action, it eventually becomes a part of our identity. For example, someone who consistently exercises will eventually see themselves as a person who is fit and healthy. Similarly, someone who consistently procrastinates may start to see themselves as a lazy person. This concept of identity is one of the key ideas James Clear emphasizes in Atomic Habits. He explains that habits are not just about the actions themselves, but about who we believe ourselves to be. By changing our habits, we change our identity, and by changing our identity, we unlock the potential for lasting change. For instance, consider the story of someone who has always struggled with weight loss. Initially, they might think, "I want to lose weight," or "I need to exercise more." However, these goals are too vague and do not create a lasting change. But when they shift their focus from the goal of losing weight to the habit of "I am someone who exercises regularly," or "I am someone who makes healthy food choices," their behavior starts to change more naturally. The shift in identity leads to a greater commitment to the action and ultimately to lasting results. The role of small changes. One of the most powerful aspects of Atomic Habits is the idea that small changes can lead to big results. Clear argues that improving by just 1% every day can lead to remarkable transformations over time. This idea of small incremental improvements is often overlooked in our culture of instant gratification, but it is one of the most effective ways to create lasting change. Take the example of a person who wants to improve their fitness. Instead of committing to a strict exercise routine that might feel overwhelming, they start by adding just 5 minutes of exercise each day. Over time, these 5 minutes become a habit, and as the habit solidifies, they naturally start to increase the duration of their workouts. What started as a small change can eventually lead to a dramatic transformation in their fitness level. This principle of tiny habits compounding over time applies to all areas of life, whether it's improving your career, your relationships, or your overall well-being. By focusing on small, manageable actions, we can achieve more than we ever thought possible, one tiny step at a time. How to build good habits and break bad ones. James Clear doesn't just explain the importance of habits, he also provides a roadmap for building good habits and breaking bad ones. He breaks down the process into a simple 4-step framework: cue, craving, response, and reward. This cycle explains how habits form and how we can use it to our advantage. Cue. This is the trigger that starts the habit. It could be something external, like seeing a gym, or something internal, like feeling stressed. Craving. This is the desire to experience the reward that the habit brings. Response. This is the actual behavior or action that we take. Reward. This is the satisfaction or benefit we receive from completing the habit. To build a new habit, you must make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. On the other hand, to break a bad habit, you should invert these steps, make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. For example, if you want to stop snacking on junk food, you could make the junk food less accessible, make the cue invisible, replace it with healthier options, make the craving less attractive, and remove any immediate rewards from eating unhealthy food. Over time, these changes will help you break the cycle and form a new habit. The importance of environment. One of the most underrated factors in shaping habits is our environment. Clear argues that our surroundings play a massive role in shaping our behaviors. If you want to build good habits, make them easy by setting up your environment to support those behaviors. For example, if you want to read more books, keep a book on your nightstand or in your bag so that it's always within reach. If you want to exercise more, place your workout clothes in a visible location as a constant reminder. Conversely, if you want to break a bad habit, make it harder by changing your environment. For instance, if you're trying to quit smoking, avoid places where you're tempted to smoke or keep cigarettes out of sight. The idea is that by making the cues for bad habits less visible, and the cues for good habits more visible, you're setting yourself up for success. Conclusion. The power of small habits. Ultimately, Atomic Habits teaches us that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, steadily, and incrementally. The most successful people in any field aren't those who make one big change, but those who make small, continuous improvements over time. By understanding how habits work and using the principles outlined in Atomic Habits, we can all make significant improvements in our lives. Whether it's getting healthier, becoming more productive, or improving our relationships, it all starts with tiny, consistent changes. The key is to focus on small, manageable actions that will eventually compound into huge results. In the end, Atomic Habits isn't just a book about building good habits. It's about unlocking the power within each of us to create lasting, meaningful change. The power of small habits is the power to change your life. Chapter number 2. The importance of small habit changes. James Clear argues that one of the biggest reasons people fail to change their habits is that they don't fully recognize the power of small adjustments. Many of us set ourselves up for failure by aiming for huge, quick changes. which can often feel overwhelming and unsustainable. We are drawn to dramatic transformations, believing that we need to make grand gestures to see real progress. However, this desire for instant sweeping change frequently leads to burnout and frustration. What if I told you that the key to lasting change isn't in making enormous leaps, but in small, steady improvements? James Clear introduces a simple yet incredibly powerful concept. Improve just 1% every day. It sounds deceptively simple, right? But that's precisely the point. Small changes, made consistently over time, can lead to results that are far beyond what we initially expect. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're trying to get fitter. Rather than committing to an intense workout regimen that feels daunting and might exhaust you within a few days, start small. Maybe today, you add a 10-minute walk to your routine, or you do a set of body weight exercises after work. Tomorrow, add another 10 minutes or a different exercise. If you keep this up, after a month, you're not just in better shape, you've built the habit of exercising regularly, and the improvements, though incremental, will start to compound. Why small changes work? The idea of improving by just 1% a day might seem trivial, but the magic happens over time. Clear explains that the real power of habits comes from their compound effect, a concept borrowed from finance, where small investments grow exponentially over time. The principle applies just as effectively to habits. A small improvement made each day doesn't just add up linearly, it multiplies. For instance, if you were to improve just 1% every day for a year, you wouldn't end up just 365% better. Your improvements would be 37 times greater, which is an increase of 3,700% over the course of the year. This compounding effect is what makes small changes so powerful. You're not only building new habits, you're creating a system of behavior that continues to build on itself, growing stronger and more effective the longer you stick with it. The dangers of overloading with big goals. When we set big, ambitious goals, we often forget that change doesn't happen overnight. Take, for example, the New Year's resolution to lose 20 kilograms or exercise every day. These goals, while admirable, can be overwhelming and even discouraging. The immediate pressure of having to see dramatic results quickly can cause us to give up when things don't progress as fast as we imagined. This is why the 1% principle is so valuable. By focusing on small, manageable improvements, we give ourselves the space to build lasting habits without feeling overwhelmed. One personal example comes from my own journey of learning a new language. Initially, I aimed to master a new language in a year, which felt like a monumental task. But instead of forcing myself into long, exhausting study sessions, I decided to commit to just 15 minutes of focused study every day. Some days I would spend an extra 5 minutes or more, but the key was that I showed up every day. A year later, I could hold simple conversations and read basic texts. It was the cumulative effect of small, daily actions that got me to a level I never thought possible. The compound effect of habits. To further understand how powerful small changes can be, think about something you may have experienced before. Starting a new job, learning a new skill, or even getting into a new routine. Initially, everything feels like a challenge, and you might not see immediate results. But over time, you start noticing the subtle improvements. You're more confident in your role, you can speak the new language more fluently, or you no longer feel the strain of the exercise. These changes didn't happen because of a single, massive action, but because of the gradual accumulation of tiny, consistent efforts. In essence, this is the compound effect of habits. Small actions done regularly lead to huge results. The key is consistency. So, rather than trying to change everything at once, focus on improving just a little bit each day. Let go of the myth of needing instant, massive change. Real transformation is built through gradual, deliberate steps. A personal story of the 1% principle. To bring this principle to life, consider the example of someone striving to become more productive at work. Imagine someone struggling with procrastination and disorganization. Instead of trying to completely overhaul their work habits overnight, they decide to focus on just one thing, starting each day with a list of 3 priorities. The next day, they do the same. Over time, as they refine their process and build this habit of prioritization, they notice that not only are they getting more done each day, but their confidence and sense of control at work is growing. They never aimed for perfection. They just aimed for consistent improvement, 1% at a time. And as a result, their productivity skyrockets in a way they never anticipated. Conclusion: small habits, big results. In the end, the key takeaway is simple yet profound. Small habits, when practiced daily, lead to incredible results over time. Rather than feeling discouraged by the vastness of the goal ahead, start by making tiny adjustments. Remember, you don't need to make a dramatic change all at once. Just commit to improving by 1% every day and let time work its magic. So, what small habit can you start changing today? Whether it's dedicating 10 minutes to learning something new, drinking an extra glass of water each day, or simply reading a page of a book. The path to personal transformation begins with the smallest of steps. Chapter number 3. Strategies for building good habits and breaking bad ones. In Atomic Habits, James Clear introduces 4 essential principles that serve as a powerful roadmap for building good habits and breaking bad ones. These principles aren't just theoretical ideas, they're actionable strategies that can create real change. Let's take a closer look at them. 1. Make good habits easy. The first principle is to make good habits as easy as possible to start. We often set ourselves up for failure by overcomplicating things. If you've ever tried to change a habit and failed, you've probably realized that the more complex the plan, the harder it is to stick with. The key is simplicity. If you want to start exercising, don't commit to an hour at the gym right away. This can feel overwhelming. Instead, start by doing something simple, a 5-minute stretch, or a quick walk after dinner. The easier you make the habit to start, the more likely you are to keep doing it. Let's consider the example of someone trying to eat healthier. Instead of overhauling their entire diet overnight, they could begin by simply swapping one unhealthy snack for a fruit or a handful of nuts. This small action, repeated daily, soon becomes a habit, and the person can gradually make further improvements over time. 2. Make bad habits hard. On the flip side, when you want to break a bad habit, the strategy is to make it as difficult as possible to continue. The more effort it takes to perform the bad habit, the less likely you are to do it. It's about creating friction, whether that's physical, mental, or emotional. For instance, if you're trying to cut down on social media use, you might delete the apps from your phone, or at the very least, log out of your account so that you're not just a click away from endless scrolling. If junk food is your weakness, try removing all processed snacks from your house and replace them with healthier options. The more barriers you create between yourself and the bad habit, the less likely it will become a temptation. I've personally found that this making things hard approach works wonders. For example, I used to have a tendency to binge watch shows late at night, but by removing my remote control from the nightstand and keeping my TV hidden behind a cabinet, I unintentionally made it harder to fall into the trap. The effort of going to get the remote was enough to make me reconsider. 3. Use the small action principle. One of the most powerful strategies in Atomic Habits is to break down your goals into tiny, manageable actions. Instead of aiming for massive leaps of progress, aim for small, consistent actions. This is what Clear calls the small action principle, and it's incredibly effective in preventing burnout and making habits stick. Think about this. If your goal is to read more books, starting with a goal of reading 50 pages a day might sound daunting, especially if you're not already in the habit of reading. Instead, start with a modest goal, say 5 pages. You'll be amazed at how quickly you build momentum. After a week, you'll find that reading 10 pages feels easy, and soon enough, you'll be devouring 30, 50, or even 100 pages a day without thinking twice. The key to this strategy is that small wins compound over time. If you read just 5 pages a day, in 1 month, you'll have read 150 pages. In a year, that's over 1,800 pages. Small actions, repeated consistently, lead to results that are truly extraordinary. 4. Make habits obvious. Finally, Clear suggests that we should make our habits obvious. This means setting up our environment in a way that makes good habits easier to notice and perform. This could mean placing your running shoes right by your door if you want to start running every morning, or putting a book on your pillow to remind you to read before bed. For me, the power of environmental design cannot be overstated. I've personally found that when I want to make a habit easier, I have to ensure that I literally see it. For example, if I want to drink more water, I keep a large water bottle on my desk and refill it regularly. By simply keeping the goal in sight, I'm more likely to remember and act on it. Putting it all together. Building good habits and breaking bad ones doesn't require drastic, life-altering changes. In fact, it's the small, consistent shifts that create lasting transformations. By making good habits easy, bad habits hard, starting with tiny actions, and designing an environment that supports our goals, we can slowly and steadily transform our lives in ways we never thought possible. The key lies in making the process simple, manageable, and inevitable. And remember, you don't have to aim for perfection, just aim for progress, one small step at a time. Chapter number 4. Real-life stories and lessons. Learned. One of the most compelling strengths of Atomic Habits is that James Clear doesn't just offer theories or abstract concepts. He provides us with real, relatable stories of individuals who transform their lives by making small, consistent changes to their habits. These stories serve as a powerful source of inspiration and practical evidence that anyone can achieve significant changes, no matter how overwhelming their goals may seem. The story of the marathon runner. Take the story of a marathon runner, for instance. This individual had always dreamed of running a marathon, but felt overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the challenge. He had no experience, no clear starting point, and was unsure of where to begin. Rather than diving straight into a rigorous training plan that might have been too much too soon, he decided to take the simplest approach possible. He began by running just 5 minutes a day. At first, the 5-minute runs were short and unremarkable, but they helped him build the habit of running. He started small, which made it sustainable. Over the course of a month, he found that he could run for 30 minutes without feeling winded. What started as a tiny commitment slowly turned into a daily routine that he couldn't miss. A few years later, he ran and completed his very first marathon. This story is a testament to the power of starting small and staying consistent. The seemingly insignificant 5-minute runs stacked up over time to create a life-changing achievement. The story of the graphic designer. Then, there's the story of a graphic designer who wanted to improve his drawing skills. He was passionate about design, but when it came to sketching, he often felt discouraged because his skills were nowhere near where he wanted them to be. At first, the idea of practicing drawing felt overwhelming. He didn't know where to start, and he didn't have hours to dedicate to it. But instead of waiting for the perfect time, he decided to commit to drawing for just 10 minutes every day. Each day, despite his busy schedule, he made it a point to draw for at least 10 minutes. Sometimes, it was a quick sketch. Other times, it was a rough draft. But over time, he began to notice significant improvement. The small daily practice helped him develop a habit, and as he improved, he became more confident in his abilities. Eventually, his enhanced drawing skills opened new doors in his career, leading to higher profile projects and even opportunities to teach design. This story perfectly illustrates how even the smallest, most consistent effort can yield profound results. The power of small, consistent actions. Both of these stories highlight a crucial lesson from Atomic Habits. Small actions, when done consistently, have the power to compound into extraordinary results. Whether you're training for a marathon, learning a new skill, or working on personal development, the key isn't always to aim for huge, immediate changes. It's about making small, sustainable improvements every single day. The lesson I've personally taken from these stories is that you don't need to be perfect from the start. The important thing is simply to begin. Even if it's just a few minutes a day, over time, those small increments will build momentum, and soon you'll be amazed at how far you've come. The journey is often less about the destination and more about the habits you cultivate along the way. What's even more encouraging is that these habits don't have to be monumental from the outset. Sometimes, the most powerful changes are the ones that seem insignificant at first. So if you're feeling stuck or unsure about where to start, remember, it's the small steps that lead to the biggest transformations. Chapter number 5. Conclusion and key takeaways. At the heart of Atomic Habits, James Clear delivers a profound yet simple message. Change doesn't have to be painful or complicated. In fact, the real power of transformation lies in the small, incremental adjustments we make every single day. It's about taking small steps rather than attempting to overhaul your entire life overnight. If you focus on improving by just 1% each day, after a year, the difference you'll see in your life will be staggering. This is the core of Clear's philosophy. Small habits, when compounded, lead to big results. The key lesson here is that change doesn't rely on sheer willpower or motivation. Most of us wait for that burst of energy or inspiration to take action, but that often never comes. Instead, what we need is a system, a framework, where good habits are not something we struggle to maintain, but something that naturally fits into our daily routine. It's about creating an environment and a structure that makes success inevitable. Take a moment to think about this. How often have you tried to make big, sudden changes in your life only to feel overwhelmed and eventually give up? Maybe it was starting a new diet, committing to a fitness routine, or trying to write a book. We tend to dive in full throttle, expecting quick results. But when the initial excitement fades, we lose our momentum. This is where Clear's philosophy of small, consistent changes comes in. Rather than aiming for perfection, it's about progress. My personal takeaway. Personally, I found that the most powerful transformation comes when you focus on building systems, not just setting goals. When I look back at the times I've succeeded in making a lasting change in my own life, whether it was learning a new skill or sticking to a healthier routine, I realize it wasn't because of a sudden burst of willpower. It was because I made tiny, manageable changes that gradually became part of my everyday life. For example, I once struggled with the habit of reading. At first, the idea of finishing an entire book in a short period of time felt intimidating. So I decided to start small, just 5 pages a day. That was my goal, and it seemed so easy that I never felt pressure. But over time, I noticed that I was reading more, enjoying it, and learning faster than ever before. What seemed insignificant at first, those 5 pages, added up over months, and soon I was reading books regularly and reaping the benefits. Small habits, big impact. Atomic Habits is not just a guide to changing your routines, it's a blueprint for creating a new way of life. It's about understanding that control over our lives doesn't come from giant, immediate actions, but from those small, consistent steps that eventually lead us to our goals. It's a reminder that lasting change is built on habits, and habits, in turn, are built on the foundation of small, intentional actions. If you want to transform your life, don't wait for a sudden burst of motivation. Start right now with the smallest habit. And remember, every tiny step counts. Whether it's 1% improvement a day, 5 pages of reading, or a 5-minute walk, consistency is the key. Over time, these tiny actions will compound, and before you know it, your life will look radically different without you even realizing it. So let today be the day you start. The habits you build now will shape the life you lead tomorrow. In the end, the lessons from Atomic Habits by James Clear show us that change is not a distant journey or something overly complicated. It's the small changes we make each day that hold the key to improving our lives. Don't let the desire for sudden, dramatic change hold you back. Start with small steps and commit to making them a daily habit. After a year, you'll be amazed at the results you've achieved. Remember, it's the small habits, repeated consistently, that lead to significant transformations. Start today and build a system of healthy habits that will change your life. If you found this article helpful and want to learn more about great books and personal development strategies, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Summary Update. Stay tuned for more videos and keep updating yourself with useful knowledge to improve every day. Thank you for following.